Ali Baba knocked at the door, which was opened by Morgiana, an intelligent slave, fruitful in inventions to ensure success in the most difficult undertakings. And Ali Baba knew her to be such. When he came into the court, he unloaded the ass, and taking Morgiana aside, said to her, "The first thing I ask of you is an inviolable secrecy, both for your mistress's sake and mine. Your master's body is contained in these 2 bundles, and our business is to bury him as if he had died a natural death. Go tell your mistress I want to speak with her, and mind what I have said to you." Morgiana went to her mistress, and Ali Baba followed her. "Well, brother," says he, with impatience, "what news do you bring of my husband? I perceive no comfort in your countenance." "Sister," answered Ali Baba, "I cannot satisfy your inquiries unless you hear my story without speaking a word, for it is of as great importance to you as to me to keep what has happened secret." "Alas," said she, "this preamble lets me know that my husband is not to be found. But at the same time I know the necessity of secrecy, and I must constrain myself. Say on, I will hear you." Ali Baba then detailed the incidents of his journey till he came to the finding of Cassim's body. "Now," said he, "sister, I have something to relate which will afflict you the more, because it is what you so little expect. But it cannot now be remedied. If my endeavours can comfort you, I offer to put that which God hath sent me to what you have, and marry you, assuring you that my wife will not be jealous, and that we shall all live happily together. If this proposal is agreeable to you, we must think of acting so that my brother should appear to have died a natural death. I think you may leave the management of the business to Morgiana, and I will contribute all that lies in my power to your consolation." What could Cassim's widow do better than accept this proposal? For though her first husband had left behind him a plentiful substance, his brother was now much richer, and by the discovery of this treasure might be still more so. Instead, therefore, of rejecting the offer, she regarded it as a sure means of comfort, and drying up her tears, which had begun to flow abundantly, and suppressing the outcries usual with women who have lost their husbands, she showed Ali Baba that she approved of his proposal. Ali Baba left the widow, recommended Morgiana to act her part well, and then returned home with his ass. Morgiana went out at the same time to an apothecary, and asked for a sort of lozenges which she prepared, which were very efficacious in the most dangerous disorders. The apothecary inquired who was ill at his master's. She replied with a sigh, her good master Cassim himself, and that they knew not what his disorder was, but he could neither eat nor speak. After these words, Morgiana carried the lozenges home with her, and the next morning went to the same apothecary's again, and with tears in her eyes asked for an essence which they used to give sick people only when at the last extremity. "Alas," said she, taking it from the apothecary, "I am afraid that this remedy will have no better effect than the lozenges, and that I shall lose my good master." On the other hand, as Ali Baba and his wife were often seen to go between Cassim's and their own house all that day, and to seem melancholy, nobody was surprised in the evening to hear the lamentable shrieks and cries of Cassim's wife and Morgiana, who gave out everywhere that her master was dead. The next morning, soon after day appeared, Morgiana, who knew a certain old cobbler that opened his stall early before other people, went to him, and bidding him good morrow, put a piece of gold into his hand. "Well," said Baba Mustapha, which was his name, and who was a merry old fellow, looking at the gold, "this is good Hansel. What must I do for it? I'm ready." "Baba Mustapha," said Morgiana, "you must take with your sewing tackle and go with me. But I must tell you, I shall blindfold you when you come to such a place." Baba Mustapha seemed to hesitate a little at these words. Oh, replied he, "you would have me do something against my conscience, or against my honour?" "God forbid," said Morgiana, putting another piece of gold in his hand, "that I should ask anything that is contrary to your honour. Only come along with me and fear nothing." Baba Mustapha went with Morgiana, who, after she had bound his eyes with a handkerchief, conveyed him to her deceased master's house, and never unloosed his eyes till he had entered the room where she had put the corpse together. "Baba Mustapha," said she, "you must make haste and sew these quarters together, and when you've done, I will give you another piece of gold." After Baba Mustapha had finished his task, she blindfolded him again, gave him the third piece of gold as she had promised, and recommending secrecy to him, carried him back to the place where she first bound his eyes, pulled off the bandage, let him go home, but watched him that he returned toward his stall till he was quite out of sight, for fear that he should have the curiosity to return and track her. By the time Morgiana had warmed some water to wash the body, Ali Baba came with incense to embalm it, after which it was sewn up in a winding sheet. Not long after, the joiner, according to Ali Baba's orders, brought her the bier which Morgiana received at the door, and helped Ali Baba to put the body into it, when she went to the mosque to inform the imam that they were ready. The people of the mosque, whose business it was to wash the dead, offered to perform their duty, but she told them that it was done already. Morgiana had scarcely got home before the imam and the other ministers of the mosque arrived. 4 neighbours carried the corpse on their shoulders to the burying ground, following the imam, who recited some prayers. Morgiana, as a slave to the deceased, followed the corpse, weeping, beating her breast and tearing her hair. And Ali Baba came after with some neighbours, who often relieved the others in carrying the corpse to the burying ground. Cassim's wife stayed at home, mourning and uttering lamentable cries with the women of the neighbourhood, who came according to custom during the funeral, and joined their lamentations with hers, filled the quarter far and near with sorrow. In this manner Cassim's melancholy death was concealed and hushed up between Ali Baba, his wife, Cassim's widow, and Morgiana, with so much contrivance that nobody in the city had the least knowledge or suspicion of the cause of it. 3 or 4 days after the funeral, Ali Baba removed his few goods openly to the widow's house, but the money he had taken from the robbers he conveyed thither by night. Soon after the marriage with his sister-in-law was published, and as these marriages are quite common in the Muslim religion, nobody was surprised. As for Cassim's warehouse, Ali Baba gave it to his eldest son, promising that if he managed it well he would soon give him a fortune to marry very advantageously according to his situation.